Hello everybody and welcome to LMM, and it's now time for another episode of Lawrie Goes a Little Loco. Now, last time we investigated the big box that I had found up in my loft, which was full of all kinds of wonderful things that frankly I had forgotten that they all exist. So the second part of this video is going to be testing out the locomotives and see which one of them work out of at least 5 years, maybe longer, of being stored. And frankly, honestly guys, I don't remember ever having any of them working. I assume I must have tested them, but I honestly can't remember. I know for a fact the B1 has never been tested by me. But before we do that, we're going to have a look at this set in here, because it feels like there's something inside the box. And I honestly cannot ever remember seeing this box before in my life. Now, there's a bit of a shame because the box is damaged here. It's got a tear there and it's been ripped there. But let's have a look and see what's in it, because it feels like there is something in it. Oh, wow. This is a complete station set. I'll just bring that right up for you. Now, that's quite spectacular. Things I immediately love. I love the fact that you lift the lid and it's got all the other products you can buy and how things should go together on with the track. That's lovely. That's a lovely bit of advertising, isn't it? Opening it up and, hey, you've got a new station, but guess what else you could buy to make it even better? Wow, that is beautiful. I kind of don't want to get it out of the box because it's all there. This is a beautiful box set, and I've certainly never had this out. The first thing is these platform bits. These are far bigger than the modern Hornby ones, which, in comparison, over here, they're about half the width. Modern Hornby ones work quite well as island platforms on the track plan, so you can have the track going around them, whereas this feels not quite as much. Oh, I am scared to put these together. That is quite a locking mechanism on the bottom to... Oh, there we go. Wow. I wonder if this. I don't know if this has ever. Well, certainly I've never had this out of the box. I wonder if it's ever been out of its box. If so, is this a bit of a travesty to do this? To build a set? Oh wow! Look at that. That is a proper station. That is a station of which the length. Oh wow! It's got a nice. Oh, that is. Oh well, that is lovely. That is a station of which suits the length of my train. So we've got the little steps here. Oh, and they've even got the decal still on the back, so that can go like that, I think. Then there's this lovely little waiting room here, all in the dark maroon with the yellow windows, looking fairly garish. But there's a nice little bench there and sticks on the side. I do wonder if this has ever been used. Oh, look at, there's an interesting plastic bag. That's probably not original. Oh, that's got chimneys in it. A little yellow tab. That's the main station. No, it has been out before because we're missing the sticker on the end. It's been ripped off. That is a shame. I like how they kind of locate quite nicely. And then there's the station. That's the canopy. Now, the canopy goes this way around and locks into there, but one of the plastic tabs is broken, so it doesn't work quite as it should. In fact, we're going to keep that off so it doesn't break the other one. But I imagine, oh, of course, that should be there, shouldn't it? So that lines up like that with perfect. That's there's a yellow tab in the box there, so that would be the part that's broken on that. That's a shame. Obviously, that's been out before then. And then these little bits that say Wigan. So apparently we are modelling Wigan Station. I find that maybe a little unlikely, but wow, that's superb, actually. What a wonderful station, all in its entirety. There's a note here. What's this say? apparently somebody bought this for £48. Definitely not from a smoke-free home though. Wow, that is absolutely stunning. And it honestly feels a bit of a shame to get it out the box. I mean, it's totally useless as an actual platform because it looks very non-prototypical, but it does make the layout a little more exciting. So I now have my intermediate station here and then my main station here. It's a shame it's damaged. It's a real shame it's damaged. So the most important thing I suppose now is we'll put this lovely thing away and we'll see about the locomotives and find out which one of those actually work. With the set put back in its box and put away safely, it's time to get the locomotives out and see what I've got and if it actually runs or not. So we're going to start with what appears to be the oldest model, which is this one. And it's tender. Now, I think that this has been modified to become part of a diorama or to sit at the end of a siding somewhere as a locomotive that's been abandoned. The paint looks like it has been deliberately painted over with this new colour to make it look bare metalish, and the nameplates have been removed. Now, I rather suspect that this started off life as Albert Hall, which was Hornby's Hall class, and it was in production for several years, and the shell was actually reused and it became a couple of other members of the class and survived into I think the 70s, by which time it was looking very dated indeed. Now this one obviously is missing the cylinder block that should go on this plate here. This is the same chassis that got used in the B12, and you can see here there's the end where the rods used to be attached. They've been cut off, and it's not going to run, I've realised, because that's the clip for the brushes and it has no brushes in there at all. So that's definitely dead. But it would look quite nice parked up somewhere in a siding, maybe a sheet or something. I know it was quite popular for a time to have models, especially the older ones, distressed on the corner of a layout. It's a bit of a shame really to have a model like that, but on the other hand, what are you going to do with it? It's coarse scale wheels, it's not going to run on modern track, it's effectively useless. At least this way you get to use it. So let's move on to the other trying engine, which is this. This is Princess Elizabeth. Now, this is one of the first steam engines, or at least tender engines, that Triang did. And they did three versions, which were the Princess Royal, which is number 6200, Princess Elizabeth, which is 6201, and Princess Victoria, which is a number that I can't remember. Primarily, they did them in three colours. The Princess Royal was maroon, Princess Victoria was in BR black, and Princess Elizabeth was in green. Although there was a year that Princess Elizabeth also appeared in BR black. I think that was the second generation after this. So I think this is one of the initial models from, well, they started production in 1955. I don't know when this one was actually made, but it shows the right kind of look to be of that period, particularly the couplers here and here. They're not the full torsion bar hook, it's just a half bar, and the shape of the coupling hook there rather does date it as a very early model. And it is in quite spectacularly wonderful condition. The only thing I can really see on this side is that it's 4620i, as there's a little bit of the transfer missing there. Now, there are some notable problems with this model. Number one, it's far too small. It's prototypically being pushed. The prototype, if it was scaled down properly, if you compare it to a modern Princess Royal, it should come out to about here. It is notably bigger. The driving wheels too, they are completely the wrong size, and the slide bars are totally wrong. And you can see here that the piston itself pokes through the cylinder block. And so that's totally wrong and rather sports model. It's also got quite a notable mould line across the top. But bearing in mind, this is something that's now approaching 70 years old. So for something that's that old and was basically a plaything, it's amazing. It's got all its buffers. The lining is superb. Oh, the lining your side is not so superb. Around my side, it looks brilliant. So that is yeah, that is stunning. That's lovely. And it had so much detail for when it came out. On my side particularly, got the reverser linkage moulded in there. We've got the feed for the injectors coming up there and where they go into the boiler, the dome. 2 safety valves which are added extra, and then a little moulded whistle there. Lots of moulded detail. But this was an amazing model when it came out, I think. Interestingly though, no flange on the middle driving wheels, they're flangeless. And yes, it must be an early one because these are solid wheels. They're not even through flange. You know, I think my other ones I've got of this have actual spoked wheels rather than just impressed with the design. I mean, that is, and the fact it's still got its name embossed on the side, you know, the printed, actually stamped out letters of Princess Elizabeth. That is stunning. There's no cracks or anything. That's quite amazing. Now, so this is significantly older than the 37 that I got out of the box last time. So I think the chance of it running are fairly low. But let's see what happens. Oh, it kicked. Nothing though, but that's full power. No. No way. I don't believe that. That's ridiculous. That runs better than the 37 did. That's spectacular. That is 100% amazing. That's incredible. In fact, there's 2 trying era coaches here that we found. There's these 2 which are basically Mark 1, so that's a brake, and this is a passenger. So this is a proper train for it in BR maroon as well. These are later, of course, because they've got the full torsion bar. Go the other way. And one of them's missing a buffer, I've just realised. That's a shame, and the shank as well. Right. Well, that is just incredible. I am so amazingly blown away and so happy by that. I really do want to build a layout with this kind of track to suit things from this kind of period. And how badly the 37 was running was making me feel that I don't want to, but it's just brilliant. I cannot believe that. Can you imagine just how many kids would have got that and been over the moon with it? Because this is one of the first 2-rail steam locomotives. Yeah, for 00 scale. Oh, this is like where the hobby begun with an engine like this. Oh, that is absolutely glorious. That's made me so happy that that runs. What an outstanding... How has that stood the test of time so well to run? Is it going to start again? No, it not stall proof. Oh, but she starts in reverse. Would you go forward? That is superb. And of course it will not crawl like a modern locomotive, but still that is... stalled there. This is a real living piece of history, this loco. That is... stopped over there. Brilliant. I cannot believe that. That's made me so happy, and it looks just right with the old coaches. Perfect. Kind of don't want to stop running it. That is gloriously brilliant. That makes me very happy. I am so happy that runs. What a wonderful engine. Right, so we're going to go right from very old to I think one of the newest ones, and certainly one of the most unprototypical looking, which is the Bachmann Billy. Again, I don't remember buying this, so it must have come with something else I bought. This is a repurposed Thomas. This is the Bachmann Thomas. It's part of their started range where they had a rebranded Thomas as Billy. Well, that's just horrendous. It's got the kind of Hornby Bachmann toy couplings on the back, and a horrible number 4. No detail in the cab, that's blanked out there. It's horrendous, absolutely horrendous. In fact, if I put it next door to the Princess Royal there, you'll notice that by far the model, which is almost 70, looks far more realistic than the one that's only, say, 10, 15 years old. Does it work though? Go. Slowly. Look at that, away she goes. Oh, it does run so beautifully smoothly though. Look at that, that is wonderful. And dunk up to the train. Now, this actually looks very much like how Thomas and Annie and Clarabelle were meant to look originally when the Reverend Audrey had them. Annie and Clarabelle both coaches, so this is very Thomasy. And away we go. Oh, look at that. That's... I was going to say how smooth, and it stopped. It is really struggling with that. I mean, that's almost stalled there. Just looking to see if something's derailed, but no, the coaches are all as they should be. Oh, wow, that really, really is struggling. Look at that wheel slip, that's... I mean, it's a very, very light engine, so that's something to be said. Yeah, coming around there on the tight corner there, it is almost at a standstill. Well, that's very disappointing. So let's have a look. Let's take these older coaches off, because there is a fair bit of rolling resistance with these. I mean, they weigh nothing though, and they're held on the track mainly by a massive flange. And let's pull out some of the other stock I've got. So there's a very nice DePaul LMS coach here. She's a beautifully detailed. Look at that. Got the seats moulded inside, glazing everywhere, nice print, guards ducats at this end. Brake coach, and cover that up, and we'll put the shark behind that as well. There we go, which is sadly damaged, but nonetheless. Right, so this train here is now notably heavier, but they're all modern stock, so it's on modern wheels with better bearings. So let's see how Billy deals with it. Oh, well, look at that there. The difference there is night and day. See, it pulls away nice and gently. This looks very nice and early preservation, some kind of silly little industrial engine, bogie coach and a brake van. Possibly not a shark, but you know. That does run beautifully smooth though. It's a shame that it's just so hideous. It's a very nice chassis. I feel like that chassis could definitely be repurposed into something that works and onto a nice engine. But the bodywork is just too far away to ever be... I mean, you could weather this up and you could muck around with it and it's still never going to look like an engine. There's too much wrong with it. The fact that you've got the coal rails there and it's just solid across the back. It is hideous. Oh, and it's lost a lamp bracket at the front. Not that actually that matters in the grand scheme. It's absolutely hideous. That's a shame. So moving on to other things which are a bit toy-like. Here we have the Hornby D-Tank. And it's one of Hornby's most, well, common locomotives. Has worn a massive variety of liveries. Basically, it's done all of the big four and various others. This one is in British Railways experimental apple green. And this was tried on only a few engines, so already we're a little bit dubious to whether or not this would have carried it. And then it's number 9, BR number 9. Well, that seems rather unlikely, doesn't it? It's yet another fictional livery for the D-Tank. The D-Tank's always been a bit of a weird one for me. Just the whole shape of it, like it's got a very short express engine style chimney, and then you've got a nice big firebox on it. I mean, it is based on a real engine, but the real engine is significantly more squat, and this has been extended somewhat to give it a more kind of racy exterior and appearance. It's a bit strange, isn't it? Inside cylinder on an engine like this just... Now, I am fairly confident this will work because it's a fairly bomb-proof mechanism. So we'll stick it on the track and, yep, away it goes. Oh wow, I've just noticed as it went away, the coal space at the back there, well, there's about enough room there to, well, light the engine up, judging on the size of the firebox, and do nothing else with it. So it would be totally useless. So we'll run back, pick up the train with this. Now, it is very light. There is no weight in that at all. And so, oh, but away it goes. Oh, that is very smooth, isn't it? Is it just above stall? That is a lovely little model pulling it. Now, this is the kind of thing you could just about do something with, weather it up heavily and have it as kind of a shunting engine maybe, but it's never going to look right on a proper railway, which is a bit of a shame because it is quite smart. One of the things I don't like about it is the fact it's got solid wheels. Their spokes are kind of pressed into a metal disc, so they're not, it's not ideal. Oh, there we go, picks up a bit of speed now. But it runs fairly well, you can't complain with that. And it's, again, it's very much a kid's model. It's a kind of step up, but it's still very much kid. It's designed to be handled. There's no handrails, there's no fine details on it. I mean, it also do kind of catastrophically fast speeds. I imagine a lot of D-tanks have been thrown off layouts and gone flying through the stratosphere as they approach speeds of near Mach 1. Now, it is, however, definitely a step forward from Billy here. I mean, the detail, there's far more detail, and it actually looks like a steam engine. That looks like a toy. That has some resemblance to a steam engine, and of course he's trying to have a proper livery. It's a nice way to get into model railways for kids. And then getting a bit further on, we have the ambiguous Hornby Pug. Now, this has worn more liveries than anything else in the Hornby range. And I'm pretty sure that most model railway enthusiasts will have a Smokey Joe on their layout. And this is what the Smokey Joe chassis is. Smokey Joe being, I think, Hornby's best-selling model of basically all time. Now, this one itself is quite basic. There is some nice detail across the smoke box of the rivets, and obviously it's missing a chimney, so I'm going to have to look for a chimney. And it's got some details like on the side of the cab, but the tank itself being very flat, and there is the mould line on it. I have got an older one of these in Caledonia livery, which has the handrails and some other bits, and it looks far superior. Things on this that are a massive improvement from the little D-tank are we've got the handbrake moulded at the back here, and all the cab detail with the back head detail all picked out quite nicely. It's not painted or anything, but there's enough there you can actually look at it and go, oh, I know what that is. And there's little gauges and handles. It's a nice thing. It's definitely a lot further forward. There is one thing I really hate about these models though, and that's the motor retaining clip there comes across on the outside. And once you've seen it, you can't unsee it, and it just looks wrong. And I appreciate there's not a lot of detail on this model to start off with, but it's not right. But they're quite nice, and I will bet you guys this entire collection that this will just fire off and charge off on its own, because again, indestructible. Yep, there it goes. They are basically indestructible, he says as it stops. Go on, connect up. They are, and yeah, away it goes. Lovely. So it's definitely a stage forward compared to the D-tank there, because we've got the connecting rods on the outside, which give it a little more of a prototypical appearance. And it is actually based on something. They were used by the LMS themselves, and some of them survived into British Railways days, so it is an actual prototypical locomotive, although these days it kind of gets liveries thrown all over it from anything. Now, the colour it's in, the maroon, is definitely not something it would have carried in service. I think there are, when I was unpacking the box, there's some four-wheel coaches which were maroon, so I imagine they were part of, I want to say maybe the Midlander set at some point. But certainly the LMS would not have painted this up into maroon livery. It is not a passenger locomotive. It suffers from the same problems as the other one. It's got solid wheels with spokes pushed into it, but again, it's a Keats model. So we're not going to hold that against it. I think these were possibly the Dubby Pug. And one thing I've just realised that I do like about the D-Tank is we have daylight through the boiler. I mean, it means we can see the worm gear that drives it, but it's not too bad. It's nice to see some daylight through this, because this you should see daylight underneath. But obviously you can't, because it's not that detailed. So moving on to something a bit more detailed. And this here is a Dapole Pug. Now, obviously, it's rather knackered. It's had a drop. And I think deep down in my memory banks, I purchased this because I've got a kit that goes on its chassis to turn it into some other kind of shunter. Now, looking at the damage it's taken, I rather suspect it's not going to work because the rear end is smashed to, something. It is rather knackered, I think. But the front end looks great. Again, it's lost the chimney. It's lost one of its block buffers on the front. But let's find out. Let's give it a go. And I wonder what happened to the kit I had to convert this with. Oh, look at that. It looks like the top bearing's fallen out the motor as well. Let's push that back round. Oh, that's killed it. How about that? Oh, there we go. I am surprised though. Dapole Pugs were known for being quite noisy, and this one is no exception. It has no coupling hooks, so we're just going to buffer up to the train in front and give it a push round. Well, there's no problem with power there, that's for sure. That's a mighty little engine. The little Pug was one of the first as well small engines to come out when everything else was notably bigger. For something that small was a wonderful thing to have on layouts. And of course, this in its proper condition, if it wasn't absolutely destroyed, would be fantastic and suitable for most model railways, because it is prototypical and it's advised into BR days. And of course, it is in the correct livery. It should be black and LMS like that rather than the maroon. And again, you can just notice the difference here, the difference of having a riveted tank makes rather than this just piece of plastic, and the handrails. Much older model, but excluding that bit, looks far superior to that one. Poor little thing. I must find the kit to finish that off. So, keeping with a LMS theme, I'm going to pull out this, which is the Hornby Black 5. It's a tension-driven model, so you can just push it like that, and it feels like the drive wheel was sticking slightly on that. Now, I am not a fan of tender drive models. I know why they did it, so they could use the ring-filled motor, but I like to see a bit of wheel slip when it's struggling rather than the thing just sitting there and the tender going, this, I think, is a 80s model, if memory serves. I think so, because that looks like a sticker on the side of it rather than a print. And it's got the plastic side rods going in. Yeah, there's definitely there's a tight spot there I can feel, so that's going to need some adjustment, because I imagine we'll just push this and it will sit locked up. Oh, that's front bogie as well. It's very stiff. Those wheels do not want to go round. That needs some adjustment, that's for sure. Now, of course, the LMS Black 5 was the most numerous of all British steam locomotive classes, with a ridiculous number of them being built. And so I suppose it makes sense I've got one. Again, no idea where this one came from. I know I've got one in my collection, but I didn't know it was this one. And basically the standard locomotive, go anywhere, do anything, that was the Black 5. It's a 5P or a 5F, one of the best designs of locomotive ever. So I'm not sure if I believe this will run, just because Hornby tend to drive, never a big fan of. It's quite a nice model. There's nice bits of riveting on the roof. Again, there's the mould line down the centre of the boiler. Separately added safety valves. A very moulded whistle, which is a bit of a shame. Then we've got handrails, one of which is popping out. I've just sorted that out. Yeah, there's some nice detail all over it, isn't there, actually, looking at it. Got sandboxes just below the running board. The reverser on my side. Steam pipe running to the front. Moulding for the injectors and the dome. The injector delivery pipes, the clacks rather. mechanical lubricators on the side of the running board. Again, a shame there's no daylight onto the boiler, because there should be, but we'll see. Is that going to lock up, do we think? Oh, that runs surprisingly well. So make sure they're together nicely, and yeah, as I suspected, nothing. Oh, hello. I take it back. Oh, look at that go. That's quite amazing. The driving wheels are going around, but the rear wheel on the front pony, they're locked. But there we go. That's the problem with tender drive when you get the front wheels locked up. That is actually not a bad model. That's something that you could actually run on a modern layout and not have any problems with. I mean, the gap between tender and locomotive is a bit far away, but it's got to be in order to cope with these ridiculously sharp corners we have here. Oh, look at that go. That's a proper engine. That I could put on a... You could run that on a proper layout and it would look nice. Looks a bit silly with just one Mark 1 and well, one LMS brake coach and a Shark, but at least they're the right company, I suppose. Oh, that is superb. I cannot believe all these things are running with no effort. I mean, this box must have been in my loft for 6 years at least. The box was up here before I got the train set we looked at last time. Oh, it's really nice to actually have something running relatively smoothly around on the rails here as well. It runs far better than the 37. So again, that's a proper locomotive we've moved up onto. So with that done, we'll move on to the most modern steam engine in the collection, which is this Bachmann P1 in British Railway livery. And this is Viscount Ridley, apparently. And as I said, I don't have a tender for this. And the difference in detail on this compared to the Black 5 is just phenomenal. There's still the mould line across the top of the boiler, but it's reduced. Then we have a much thinner, much nicer handrail. The boiler bands are painted. There are rivets all over the smoke box. We've got the stays in the side of the firebox, handrails on the side of the cab. There's glazing in the cab. The back head is quite nicely detailed as well. Lots of nice fine detail. Much nicer bit of detail just around the piston area as well. It's all a bit more fine, a bit fiddly. Sprung front pony tuck rather than the Hornby system where it's swung and swings out and there's nothing. There's a gap under the front of the engine. This one is supported by the front of the engine. It looks better. And this one looks far more like a model than it does a toy. Now, I've always been a big fan of Bachmann and their engines. They changed a while ago to be a more conventional chassis. Originally it was a split chassis, one side positive, one side negative, the motor sandwiched between. Lots of weight, ran very well. But I have no doubt that this thing won't run particularly. I mean, if all that stuff runs, including the old stuff, this one will run beautifully. Or not. It's got Bachmann limp. Well, that's terrible. Oh, how about that? Oh, that is absolutely awful. Oh, it's even bad in front. Something is way off in that. That's going to need a strip down, I think. Oh, what a shame. That is, again, the best model here. Oh, that is awful. That is a massive disappointment. Connect up with the train and take that for a loop round, but... Oh yeah, that is worse under load, certainly. Well, something is definitely tight. Oh, and it's now come off the rails. Yep. It's not designed for this kind of track. Is it better with one wheel off the track? I'm not sure. Possibly running better as an 040? A 440 rather. Unless this will need stripping down and rebuilding. Something is definitely not right in there. The mechanism all does feel quite tight. I wonder if the Bachmann models aren't meant to have quartering issues. I'm not sure. I think this front set. Well, that is a shame. That's a real shame. I was expecting that to be silky smooth. Oh well, Bachmann, you've let the side down, although that little thing runs beautifully, which brings us on to the last engine, which is the Hornby Class 40s. Oh no, it's not a Hornby, it's a Lima. Of course, it's a Lima 47. Right, as it's a Lima, even though it has gone banana shaped slightly, this thing will be built like a tank and will just continue running forever. It's missing a buffer there, which is a shame. They're not sprung or they're not hollow, so I can't just pop a new one in after find a whole shank for that. Now, Lima were also known as always being a bit detail sparse and a bit basic compared to their Hornby rivals, but they did run better. This one looks like it used to have lights in the end. It's called Night Mail, so it was obviously from a Night Mail. So it is a shame about that. That is a very obvious drop in the middle of that. But oh, I imagine this will run. They always run. In fact, although it is much younger than 37, the detail isn't actually that much more of, oh, I take it back, there are the fans moulded underneath the grille there. But the detail isn't really that much stonkingly better than the 37. Oh, and away it goes. Of course it does, because it's a Lima. And it stopped immediately. Oh, because it's fallen off the track. Okay, we'll try it the other way around then. Maybe it just doesn't like these very steep corners. I do like a 47 though. Try it now. Yep, there it goes. Absolutely perfect. And it will be fairly stall proof because the Lima motor was brilliant. Yep, absolutely fantastic. Will it fall off when it comes this way? Nope. Connect it up to its train, tunk, and away will trundle. Wow, look at that. Yeah, perfect. That's exactly what I expect from a Lima, to be honest. Just out the box and go. Super model. Shame about the buffer. I'll have to find a buffer for that. In fact, there's a lot of repairs to be made on a lot of these things, but look at that go. The typical Lima whir as well. They all make this noise. So it's quite a lineup here actually, because we've got Triang, Bachmann, Hornby, DePaul, Hornby, Bachmann, and then Lima. So this was kind of the giants. Lima obviously is now being bought out by Hornby, and we've got some other people entering the fray like Helgen, but and of course Rails, Sheffield making their own things as well. It's an exciting time, but this is quite a good lineup of stuff that was available. That 47 is brilliant. That is brilliant. That's a brilliant little 47. The lights don't work sadly, but beggars can't be choosers, I suppose. And that does take us through all the locomotives. So the only thing to do is have a look at this compared to the 37, which is parked perilously there. Now the first thing is that the 47 feels a lot heavier. There's a lot more weight there. But in actual fact, despite that wobbles a little bit, they don't actually look from a distance that different. The detail isn't that much more advanced on the 47 than it is on the 37. In fact, you could have the 37 for its age is a surprisingly good model. You could have that on a model railway today, if you redid the wheels anyway. They're not actually they're not too bad, and it would be fine. But there's not really that much of a jump forward between that and this. Not like compared to that and that. That is a big jump. So guys, that's that. I hope you've enjoyed this video finding out what will run. I'm blown away by what would run. There is a load of stock now for me to play with and a fleet of working locomotives, bar that one. And I've rather enjoyed it. So I hope that you have as well. And please remember, we've got our Discord, so show us your model railway stuff. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Share your pictures of your stuff and get in contact, leave a comment and share it with your model railway friends. And if you've enjoyed this, how about clicking over here for the first Lawrie Goes a Little Loco, where I opened up my train set which had this Class 37 in it, which hadn't been run since I'd got it from 1966. Well, how about clicking over there where we have a look at a real locomotive in the Lawrie Goes Loco series. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.